The governments of Canada, New Zealand, Scotland have all used Build Back Better. The WHO, the IMF, the EU, the Rockefeller Foundation, MasterCard, BP, the World Bankers and central banks are all using Build Back Better. How could this be possible that right in the midst of this crisis, that all of these key institutions and political leaders are rising up and saying, we have a plan, Build Back Better. You know why? Because they're working according to a plan. And I believe the plan is held within the Great Reset and what's been presented by the World Economic Forum for a few years. You see, they're talking about rebuilding the economy, about a new normal, that we'll never go back to what was before. That's what it means by this term. We're not going back. We're going to create a whole new system of politics, economics, and of social life. And we'll deal more with that in part 4 that will come very shortly. They're going to redesign a better world by reinventing capitalism and bringing in the rise of socialism, which was anathema. When I first heard about this rise of socialism, I didn't believe it. I thought nobody could be that foolish. No way could this socialism and communism become popular again. But oh, how wrong I was. It is a dominant influence in this hour. Even in Great Britain, Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, going back to just 1 year, to December 2019, he actually confirmed and put it out publicly that he would not attend Davos 2020. He spoke against it. In fact, he told all of his cabinet members that they should be busy delivering on the election promises concerning Brexit, rather than sipping champagne with billionaires. That's what he thought about Davos. Brexit was to be the focus. What is Brexit? Bringing Great Britain out of the EU. In the EU, they lost their liberties, their freedoms, many legal rights. And Europe, an unelected federal government, began to affect the law of Great Britain. Well, Brexit is the way out. This has been on for 4 years now. Brexit has dominated the headlines. The British people rose up and said, we don't want to be part of the EU. We want our freedoms and our liberties back. Well, Boris was all for this, and this is why he got elected. He spoke against Davos, spoke against union with the EU. In fact, he criticised Davos for the previous 6 years before to the present year. For 6 years, he's criticised this system and its gathering. You know, he used to go there every year to it, so he knew what he was speaking about. But something has happened over recent months. Boris Johnson has begun to promote the new Green Deal, promising a green industrial revolution, all under the auspices of Build Back Better. He is turning the nation green in 1 single year. He actually says that Britain will become the world leader of the green agenda. He's talking all about green jobs, green social life, green homes, green cities, and 1,000 other things. He has now proposed just 2 weeks ago that diesel and petrol cars will be banned, cannot be sold in Britain by the year 2030. It's not me saying it. It's not a conspiracy. It's public. Go and look at the news items. Friends, I'm telling you of an economic change that's going to bring a change politically right across our world, and the loss of freedoms that we hold dear. Boris also said that London would become the centre of the global green financial system. And that's why he is changing it. He wants to be at the front of this. Just 2 weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago, Boris met with Bill Gates and other big pharma CEOs in order to discuss about vaccines and the way ahead to handle COVID-19. Do you see how these men have been hijacked? They were against all of this, but suddenly they've been brought in on something. It's no wonder that Boris Johnson has been caught up in this. Matt Hancock, who is his Secretary of State for Health and Social Care in Great Britain, has been involved in the fourth industrial revolution for many years. He's actually got articles on the British government website on the fourth industrial revolution. It is official that on the government website on the 16th of October 2017 that his entire speech that he gave at Davos is on there. You see, Hancock is a big promoter of the Great Reset, the fourth industrial revolution, and this coming social change that's to affect the British Isles. Now, Hancock referenced Schwab in his speech. Listen to what he says about Schwab, the founder of the World Economic Forum. He has informed us what we are to do, that we are to play a leading part as far as technology in this. Everything must be digitalized. When he spoke at Davos in 2018, this was his title, Reimagining Policy Making for the Fourth Industrial Revolution. Something's happening with the British government at this time. They have been caught up in this when in fact they began and got elected to come out of Europe and away from the loss of sovereignty. Suddenly they are losing the vision of Brexit and are becoming a pro-reset institution. Boris Johnson recently said it's not enough to go back to the same that we had. He said COVID is the trigger for the economic and social change of our nation. That's the first statement, build back better. Let me go to a second one. You Americans, hold on, I'm coming to you shortly. The second statement is shareholder capitalism, as opposed to stakeholder capitalism. When someone talks about capitalism, you think, and I think, that they mean the same as us. Capitalism is capitalism. But look what Klaus Schwab in his book is beginning to talk about shareholder capitalism, different from stakeholder capitalism. These aren't terms we normally use. They are using these terms knowing that we don't understand these terms. We hear the word capitalism and we think it means the capitalism of freedom and liberty. But you know what? Klaus Schwab is talking about a radical new start when he talks about shareholder capitalism. Next year, in April 2021, to coincide with Davos in April 2021, that's going to be next year, all about the Great Reset. He's releasing a new book. This is his last book, but he's going to release a new book. Listen to what the title is. How Capitalism Works and How We Can Overcome It. That's the leader of the World Economic Forum. He's going to put a book out to go side by side with the Great Reset gathering at Davos next year. And as he does that, the whole underpinning theme is, how do we overcome capitalism? Have I got your attention in this video? Sadly, I can't say all that I need to say in this. You see, they're talking about to shape the Great Reset at the gather next year. They're going to rebuild a more cohesive and sustainable society. They're going to design a common unified recovery path. They are going to call on all world governments to join together behind this plan. I'm talking about shareholder capitalism. He's going to release his book on it next year. Now let me just move on to my American friends, to Joe Biden. Listen to what he says. At one of his campaigns, election campaigns, in July this year, on the 9th of July, at the platform where he had written, Build Back Better. That was his main headline. That was his platform message. Biden said, listen to what he said in his speech on the 9th of July. We need to end the era of shareholder capitalism. You see, he's talking, like with the World Economic Forum, moving from shareholder capitalism and moving on to stakeholder capitalism. Now, you might say, what does this mean? I'm going to explain it to you very simply. Shareholder capitalism means it benefits the owners. It's true capitalism. That's what shareholder capitalism is. It's true capitalism that we understand and recognize. It benefits the owners. It's about competition. It's about working hard. It is the current economic system across the Western world. But you know what Biden and Schwab want to do? And they've said it publicly. They want to move away from that to stakeholder capitalism. They still use the word capitalism as an economic political term. And yet they said there's going to be a change coming and it's going to happen in the Great Reset. We'll still call it capitalism, but it will no longer be shareholder that we understand capitalism to be. It's going to be stakeholder. What is stakeholder? It is collective. Everybody owns it. It is the collective ownership of property and of business, of sale, of making money, and of the redistribution of wealth. Do you know what that is? That is socialism. That is old-fashioned socialism. But now they've given a new title to socialism. They call it stakeholder capitalism. Do you know why they call it that? Because most of us would say, I don't want socialism. But they're presenting a new economic system. They're going to change it in the Great Reset. And they're moving from a capitalist system to a socialist system, but they're going to call it all capitalist. That's what they're going to do. You see, they're saying that stakeholder capitalism is nice business etiquette. They say we're thinking about everybody. But you can be sure the great businesses of our world aren't going to distribute their wealth to people like you and me. They most certainly are not going to do that. When they talk about the redistribution of wealth, or they talk about stakeholder capitalism and businesses, you know what they're talking about? More government control and influence upon it. The collective management will be state management, and the state will decide how to use that. In other words, the state's going to move into the economy, into the business world, and begin to gain the influence away from the small businessman, and now state governments and systems like the World Economic will have more influence. You see, Biden has made a stand for the Great Reset of capitalism. He said that he's looking for a more equitable redistribution of global resources. End of quote. In other words, what he's saying is less freedom and less money, more tax, higher tax, and less freedom. A radical and dramatic change in how we run our lives. Look at the Democratic Party in America, and I'm not speaking politics here. I'm telling you, the Church of Jesus Christ, what's going to happen in our world to set us up for the last days, and we must play our part in this. We must play the man and have real courage in this hour to preach the gospel. Look at the Democratic Party of the year 2020. Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Mike Bloomberg, who's financing them with untold wealth. You know what they're presenting as a party? And believe me, if Trump is finished in the White House and Biden is coming in, this is a vital part of the Great Reset. The Great Reset is on track, and it's very important what happens in this election. Biden has already promised a new COVID action plan. My American friends, get